I usually try and start off the episode just by asking the guest what your relationship is with death. Obviously, you work in this field, so of course you have a relationship with it. But do you think about it outside of work? Do you think about it a lot? Do you worry about it? What is your relationship with death like?
So, I mean, I've been a nurse for a decade now, and I spent the first 50% of my nursing career learning how to save people.
Hmm.
And I like to think that I still do that, just sort of in a different way now. It's not everybody wants to keep going,
Sure.
depending on circumstances. And I think that people should have an option. And I'm very glad that I live in a place that people do have the option to choose whether or not they want to keep going, based on their circumstances. So I feel like my relationship with death probably started before I became a nurse.
Hmm.
I was a little bit of a sickly child, so spent a lot of time in and out of hospitals. Spent a decent portion of my childhood wheelchair bound. So you're just, I think when you're a child who is ill, you come to terms with things a lot faster and in a different way. When you're sick and there's people who are sick around you, it just becomes normal and it's not scary. I
Yeah.
think death for most people is terrifying, right? When will it happen?
Sure.
How often is it going to hurt? I've never really had that. I don't know if that's an issue with my wiring or so it sounds like I'm very apathetic towards it, which I'm not. I think the difference is having a respect for death versus having a fear of it.
Yeah.
So I had a childhood best friend who unfortunately suffered a series of aneurysms and died when I was very young. It was a very sort of matter of fact, like my parents didn't sugarcoat it. His family didn't sugarcoat it. It was like, okay, so Eric has passed away now.
Yeah.
And, you just like, oh, okay, so that's how that works.
Some parents will, just, oh, grandma just took a nap forever.
For a long time. That's my favorite. Oh my God.
Yeah, and I mean, what? I guess depending on the age of the kid, like there's only so much you wanna. Because I get it. It's like I think it's important to be honest and open and talk about death, but the longer you could go without realizing that it's gonna happen to you, the better. Like, why not? I think there's nothing wrong with living a life where you think you're just gonna live forever, or you just don't even think about it. Like I remember as soon as I got to that point where I was like, "Oh shit, yeah, like that's it. It's just like darkness forever." And it's like, "Oh man, that fucking sucks, dude. That's so terrifying." And then it
And
was
that's
just like,
this started.
oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, it's like it's why I do this podcast. It's I need to talk about it. I think about it to an unhealthy amount, I'm sure. I mean, every day I think about how am I going to die or oh, am I about to die? You get like the weird, muscle spasm, the chest pain, and you're like, this is it. I can't believe it. It's like I think about it so much, and always want to talk about it. And my friends don't want to talk about death all the time. No one, they're not into. I'm a bummer, so it's like I got to find a way to talk about this stuff, and I've
I
been
hear.
very, I've been very lucky in finding that. But yeah, I think it sounds like for sure. I mean, you were super young, being in a hospital. I mean. Again, obviously hospitals are great, but it's like we're just hiding all the sick dead people. Nobody knows what's going on in there. I remember going to an open casket funeral when I was like 9 years old or something, and like it still didn't even like click. I was just like, oh, I don't know. It was my great grandma. I was just like, I guess she's just chilling up there. We're hanging out. Like I didn't even think about it. It did
Or
nothing.
I'm gonna ask you a personal question. Are
Yeah,
you Italian?
I am Italian. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay,
this was
so
in Long Island, by the way.
oh,
Everybody was yelling and talking with their hands. It
uh,
was.
beautiful, love that. So
Yeah.
I'm obviously very Italian as well, and growing up in an Italian family also plays a very funny role on your concept of death. So I mean, for the first portion of my life, you've only ever been to Italian funerals, right? Both of my parents are Italian. It's there's going to be a casket jumper for sure. Some little nonna somewhere is going to jump on that casket and start crying and praying,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's like a very sort of somber. thing. It's a very somber experience, and to a point where it's kind of eerie.
Yeah.
So when you're subjected to that as a kid, and then you grow up and you start to go to other people's not that I frequent funerals or anything,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you go to funerals of an Irish family, and you're like, oh, this is how they're doing death. Okay, so we're drinking.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay, we're
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
It's most recently I was one of my best friends unfortunately lost his father,
Mhm.
and I went to their celebration of life, and my God, like, and truly a celebration of life, beautiful. And I was
Yeah.
like, this is how it needs to be done for me,
Yeah.
because I'm not doing the stingy Italian, you know, everybody
Ye-
black, everybody crying.
Yeah. Um, you said you started as a nurse. When did you get into the work that you're doing now?
I've been doing that about 3.5 years now.
Hmm.
So it became legal in Canada in 2017.
Okay.
And the organization that I work for started up their program. Like, they hit the ground running. They're like, "Yep, we want to be the people who are kind of trailblazing this."
Yeah.
Uh, and it's a relatively large organization, so they did quite well in, I don't want to say advertising, but making it known that this is what we're doing. I don't work for a religiously affiliated organization, so it's a little bit easier. There's a lot of organizations like downtown Toronto that tend to shy away from
Yeah. How do you advertise something like that? Like, what do how, what do you do?
I stand on the corner of Dundas with a sandwich board and a bell, and I ring it. No, so it's more so like advertising within the healthcare
Okay.
world.
Yeah.
It's very clearly posted on our website.
I'm not going to
Any
see like a Hulu commercial in between my show or
No, we
okay.
haven't. No, I keep putting those suggestions in, and they just keep shooting them down.
Yeah, it's weird. I can't believe I haven't heard a radio ad or seen a billboard. That does make sense. Yeah, I guess you don't. There's a way of promoting that. I guess even maybe
There
promoting is a weird way of saying it.
there is there's it's just sort of making it known that, like, this is just a service that we offer, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it is not legal where you are,
No, no, it is not.
which is so strange. I was talking to my sister about this today, that it is so
Yeah,
strange talking to someone where my job is completely
it's not
illegal.
allowed. Yeah.
Like, so what I get up and do every single day of my life? Nope, absolutely not. Right?
Yeah, it's weird how that works, right? Like you couldn't do that here. I mean, look, obviously, things are fucked up everywhere, but Canada just seems to have things figured out just a little bit more than a lot of places.
Death needs to be respected, I think,
Sure.
what it
Yeah.
comes down, right? And that's one thing that I do, even when the days are really, really rough. That's one thing I do feel quite proud of, is the fact that at the end of the day, Death and I have a mutual respect for each other.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
that's great.
it we there's an eligibility process that comes with applying for the medical assistance in dying program. We refer to it as MAID up here, because saying medical assistance in dying all the time is quite wordy.
Yeah.
Um, so there's an eligibility process. I mean, you do need to be vetted through two separate physicians. They both need to agree that you have a certain degree of suffering, whether that be like physical or existential.
Okay, so that's really interesting. So obviously I feel like the physical is that just makes sense, right? Like you have this disease, this something incurable, whatever it is, you don't want to deal with whatever the process is to keep you alive. That seems like a no-brainer to me. That seems like you go to the doctor, they check you out, and if you want to be done, you're done. These are not medical terms, but you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
what is the process like if you aren't living with some sort of incurable or some sort of like, just like debilitating disease? What is that other process like?
I'm going to give you a little bit of background about
Yeah.
how rules have changed over the last little bit. So in 2017, when this process was allowed to happen in Canada, the rules were very, very strict. Every single case needed to be sent to the coroners, like the chief coroner of Toronto's office. Everything was reviewed with a fine-tooth comb. Each person was a coroner's case, which means that there was, even though that person had a grievous or irremediable condition, there was still an autopsy that was done. The coroner still investigated as if that person had died under suspicious circumstances. And
Interesting.
then once the traction started to pick up, that people realized, hey, I can do this in Canada now. We don't have to go to the Netherlands
Yeah.
for, call it, death tourism.
Have you seen those pods that they made?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it was the Netherlands. They like literally just like made like a death pod. It's
Yeah.
wild stuff.
Yeah. And okay, well, we'll talk more about that
Yeah,
after. I
we'll
feel
get
like
there. Yeah.
the method of passing away is very interesting to me that it was allowed to happen. But we do only injection in Canada.
Hmm.
It's controlled. There's places in the US that I know that have assisted death that's legalized. It's oral medication, but the risk of oral medication of that person like regurgitating it back up
Yeah.
is more than 50%. So it doesn't really sound like the most pleasant way to try to pass away if that's what you're going to be doing.
Gotcha.
Um, we do injection here, so it's straight through an IV that myself or the physician places. Through the sort of development of people coming to realize that this is going to be more normal and more accepted, there was a massive influx of people who were interested. So we had to change the rules a little bit because it was getting
That's
too much for
so
people to.
interesting. Yeah, for something like that to be an overwhelming response.
Oh yeah, you know what? It was so funny. Canada had this big sigh of relief
Yeah.
when that passed, and people were like, "Okay, we have options. You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't need to be as scary and out of control as it has been, right?"
Yeah.
So through the eligibility process, you need to be vetted by two physicians, and there used to be what we would call a 10-day waiting period of reflection. After you sign those papers and after those physicians have said, yes, you are indeed eligible to pass away, we used to make people wait 10 days. And that 10-day waiting period was some of the most excruciating time that I've ever seen for someone.
Well, yeah, because you're just like, okay, you just like signed the papers to your death, and then now you just gotta wait 10 days? That's wild. I do understand the thought process of like, hey, what if you change your mind? What if, what if some sort of like massive life moment, something could happen? I do
And,
believe that. I'm into letting people do whatever the fuck they want. It's
mhm.
you, it's your life. You do what you want to do. So I do get that, but 10 days seems like a long time, especially if you've made up your mind.
Yeah, it is. It is. And that's the thing too. I feel like once people sort of got the balls to be able to be like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to sign my papers. I'm adamant now. And then
Yeah.
it's like, oh, we're glad you're adamant, but now you have to wait 10 days. And they're like,
Yeah.
what?
Rough. Yeah.
There was a rule. It doesn't exist anymore because the 10-day waiting period doesn't exist anymore. But there was a rule that if it was thought that that person would die of natural causes before that 10-day waiting period was up,
Hmm.
that the doctors could be in agreement to waive that 10-day waiting period.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Uh,
Okay. That's interesting.
so in that time leading up to there, I would say about 90% of the patients that I saw ended up having that waiting period waived. I deal with patients who are already admitted to the hospital.
Hmm.
I do have patients who are in the community at their own homes and have been sort of making these plans behind the scenes. And the day of their death, we do what's called a direct admit, and we just bring them into the hospital, put them in a room. Like they don't have to go through any of the rigmarole of, going through triage or the ER or anything like
Yeah.
that. But for the most part, I deal with inpatients already. So patients who are already situated in the hospital.
And are they doing this alone? Is there usually family around? How does that? I mean, obviously every case is different, but what is it usually like?
It's been funny because COVID has played a massive role
Sure.
in
Yeah.
what it looks like now. Previous to COVID, we would throw parties for patients.
Yeah.
We would have, I would sit down with my patients and say to them, okay, so it's a little bit too late for a bucket list, but if you could have three things right now, what would
Yeah.
they be?
Yeah.
And they're usually little things
You're
like,
throwing like death parties.
yeah,
I love
absolutely.
it. That's so awesome.
It's very niche.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
We had one gentleman who so you're not allowed to have alcohol in the hospital. We broke that rule.
Love
We
it.
actually set up a martini bar for him, which was
That's
absolutely,
amazing.
and I smuggled his dog in.
That's so great.
So we were able to get his tiny little, he had like a little Bichon or something like that.
Yeah.
Popped him in the winter coat and um, snuck
That's
him into.
amazing.
So
Yeah.
it's this is what I mean about like respecting death versus fearing it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like sometimes you got to have those conversations where it's like, what could make you the happiest you right now, and
Yes.
how
Sometimes
that.
you got to have a martini and hang out with your puppy one last time. People who don't know too much about it, I feel like they picture it in this like dark, scary way of like you're showing up and there's like a scary shadow that comes in with like a big needle and it's just like lights out. But these are beautiful. This is a beautiful thing that you guys are doing.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's a very I feel very honored most of the time to be involved in helping these people die.
Yeah.
You know, most of them are ravaged by illnesses that have made their life an absolute living hell,
Yeah.
and this is giving them sort of autonomy, right? So it's giving
Yeah.
them a choice back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is the process like if they aren't in the hospital? If they just I mean, have you had any sort of situation where somebody comes in and they're just like, I just don't want to exist anymore? Like, is that
Yeah.
something that happens?
Yes, it does. And interestingly enough, so right now you need to have a pretty severe disability, and or you need to already be diagnosed with something that will inevitably end your life to
Hmm.
be eligible.
So you can't just
Now,
be like sad.
not yet, but next year you can.
Really? Okay, well, explain what you can do right now, and then I would love to talk about that.
So right now, like I said, so you need to have what we call a grievous and irremediable condition. So
Yeah.
that's your cancers, your any like neurodegenerative, muscular degenerative, people who have pretty severe cerebral palsy. We do have patients that we look at and go, listen, you right now you're in a stage of grief. You've just received a new diagnosis of a cancer that will kill you, but right now is not impacting you whatsoever.
Yeah.
So we need you to wait on it a little bit. So we do sort of pump the brakes on certain people, not because I personally think that's the right thing to do, but that's just, we have to follow the rules.
Yeah, what's the reasoning behind that? I mean, if they literally are being told this diagnosis, you are going to die from this thing, but not yet. You still
Not
got some time, so is
it's
there any sort of explanation to that, or is that just again that just like you got to kind of slow roll this thing? You can't just be
so
like throwing martini death parties for everybody. There needs to be some
not
sort of like regulation to this thing.
um yeah, so there are sort of rules, like there's guidelines, we'll say.
Yes.
And we do obviously stay within them for good reason, but a lot of it's also open into interpretation of the physician who's assessing the patient. So we do need to see, like as a part of our guidelines right now, we need to see that people are sort of having daily suffering. You need to see that their illness has negatively impacted their sort of everyday life. So their mobility or sort of level of controllable pain, that kind of thing. A lot of people, when they receive a new diagnosis, they're like, that's it, I'm done.
Yeah.
That's all I needed to hear. I've got leukemia, I'm checking out.
Yeah.
And sometimes we just, based on the rules that we have in place now, we do have to say, okay, we will revisit this in 6 months, or if you start to get worse, call us.
If that's what's legal now, I obviously I mentioned, just somebody who doesn't have an illness and who just wants to die. That's something that's being assessed and talked about now as a possibility down the road.
In March of next year, it is going to be.
You look concerned while talking about that. Does it worry you?
Yeah, I think anybody who's involved in assisted death, and the mental health community, there is a little bit of reason to be concerned. Right now, as it stands, a straight diagnosis of a mental health issue is not, even though there's there might be pain and existential suffering and all of those things we talked about. We are not so advanced that that is a primary reason for someone to end their life. I don't necessarily agree with that personally. I do believe that if you want to die, you should absolutely be able to die. And I don't think that people should have to take it into their own hands to try to kill themselves.
Yeah.
But we're not quite there yet.
Have you had conversations with other doctors and nurses about this? Like, is there a plan to approaching something like this?
There is. We're going to have to rejig some of the rules again. So the assessments are going to have to be done by psychiatrists,
Hmm.
uh, preferably the psychiatrists who've been following these patients through their disease process. Because I mean, mental health is an illness, right? It's
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not, yeah, I'm not trying to say that it's when I say, oh, they're sad or whatever. I mean, yeah,
no, yeah,
I'm trying to say the same thing.
yeah, no,
But
I
yeah,
get
you're right. You're right. Yeah, of course. It's
there are, I think it's going to be very difficult to find doctors who are willing, because doctors can look at a patient and say no,
Mhm.
just for whatever reason. They can say, my values don't align with why this person wants to have this done, or I don't believe that this person is ready. So that physician is well within their right to take a step back and be like, I'm not signing off on this.
Mhm.
In talking to it, there are very, very few assessors that will do assisted death now. So, in talking to the small handful of physicians who are already willing to be a part of the program, not many of them are willing to take on mental health patients as
Yeah.
a primary diagnosis. And I mean, we all know people with mental health disorders, and there are people who have truly done everything. They have gone through every single treatment. They have done every drug. They do their therapy. That they are doing the work to try to be better, and just can't achieve a peaceful state of living.
Yeah.
And I think those are the people who this is directed at. It's not the people who are like, I have anxiety, I have depression, maybe I have a personality disorder, and I'm having a really bad couple of weeks, and I'm just gonna check out.
Sure.
It is a little bit more difficult with the mental health community, and I think that it's going to truly need to be a case by case situation for approval. It's going to need to be looked at a lot more closely, I think, than what we're dealing with currently, right? If you take the nonsensical politics out of it, it really
Yeah.
is like the perfect job for me. There's days that the politics of just hospital nonsense
Sure.
kind of whip down the reward of doing the job. But when it comes down to it, and you have, there's short-term relationships, obviously, but you have
Yeah.
really good short-term relationships with these people. They tell you things that they haven't told anybody. They are the most honest versions of themselves, and
Yeah.
it's an honor. It really is an honor to know these people before they go.
I would imagine, yeah, you probably get some incredible insight for some people and some probably, yeah,
Yeah.
crazy stories, some stuff
Oh,
they've never told anyone. That's got to be
yeah.
pretty wild. Yeah.
And it's very cool that they change your perspective on things a lot. It's not uncommon for me to do 2 or 3 deaths in a week.
Wow.
So I'll be at work and I've helped someone die, and then I come home and have dinner, or I go to a friend's house and they're nattering on about nonsensical bullshit, and I'm like, this
I
doesn't
just
matter.
watched the light leave this man's eyes and you're fucking complaining. Yeah.
Matter. Like, why are you that mad at the mailman? It makes me a little apathetic towards sort of everyday small time stuff, because I'm like, well, you're not dying, so this doesn't matter, does it?
No, almost nothing matters. Like it
Yeah,
really doesn't. It
yeah.
really doesn't. And again, it's like you want to live, your life that way forever, but it's tough to do that. It's not easy. It's like,
You wax and wane, like you become a little bit of a nihilist, right? So you're like
yeah.
sad because nothing matters, and then at one point you get this surge and you're like, nothing actually matters, and that's kind of cool. So you kind of bob back and forth between the
Yeah.
two. It's the same ideal, but the reaction to it is very different.
Yeah. just really quick, and we'll wrap up here. And I appreciate all the time you're giving me here. This has been really, really fun talking. But I mentioned those pods really quick, and you seemed like you had an opinion on those.
It's so you essentially suffocate
Yeah. So, well, the from what I read, it's more like you just slowly fall asleep.
because you suffocate.
I guess,
It's
but
like
if it's like being put under, then I think that's fine. That I mean, that's a great feeling when they put you under. I mean, that's like
that's
lights
what I
out.
do. That's how we do what
Yeah.
we do here is we give you anesthetic medication just in mass quantities and it stops your heart. So like this concept because not everybody suffocates at the same rate. So could you imagine like locking yourself into one of these
Oh yeah.
things?
And I
You know
know.
what
And
I
then
mean?
you're just pounding on the glass. Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
need I would some sort of sedative to get in there and then be like, okay, let's do this.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're probably needing to work out a few kinks with that. But I did like the idea of it. I did like that they were at least it was something that was being talked about and being taken seriously to the point where like somebody funded this thing to build this pod to help people, who want to end their lives. So, obviously you've thought about your funeral. We kind of talked about that a little bit. You want to do like a celebration more than people being sad and whatever. Do you have a song? Do you have an artist? Do you have an album? What are we listening to at the celebration? What's the music situation?
We are listening to Deftones,
Okay.
absolutely. No, that's all we're listening to because I don't think I. One of my best friends is he has a band, a local band,
Hmm.
and I don't think that he would have the gall to play at my funeral. Um,
Okay.
so Deftones is the fallback, and there would be a signature drink, like a signature cocktail for sure.
Oh, I love
Uh,
it.
yeah, we're going high class with this. This is going
Yeah.
to be like a gala, a death gala.
I love it. That sounds great. Solid choice. Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for coming on, for finding the podcast, for listening to it, and then wanting to be on it, and for doing such a cool thing. And yeah, I really appreciate you coming on here and talking about dying. Good times.
Thanks for having me, man. This was awesome.
Of course.